Hello, everyone. Thank you for taking the time to join us on this pretty chilly winter evening. My name is Felicia Bragg, for those of you who have not seen me in a while, or maybe haven't tuned into our videos for a while, and I am one of your Upward Bound academic advisors. Today, I have the pleasure of being joined by our senior academic advisor, Brady Ferguson, and one of our alumni ambassadors, Janae Bennett. Both are going to share the screen with me to share some really good information about how to finish these college applications, because believe it or not, 2020 is coming to a close, and that means some college applications, even if they weren't due yet, are coming up pretty quick. Before we get into tonight's programming, though, we do want to make sure that everyone who is here, let us know that you're here. We have the opportunity for you to ask questions throughout this. I really want it to be just a conversation. So feel free to ask questions in the live chat, which should be either to the left or below. Or if you can't join the live chat for whatever reason, please go ahead and text our Upward Bound number at 585-301-4488 with your name, as well as any questions that come up. Everyone who is here tuned in live to get some really good information, you'll also be entered to win a little family snack pack. So whether you want to do a family evening like with a movie, or you want to binge some Netflix or something, it would be really fun. Some candy, some popcorn. Who doesn't need that on these pretty chilly Rochester evenings? Before we kind of dive into the meat of it, I wanted to introduce you a little bit more to Miss Janae. She is one of our Upward Bound alumni ambassadors, as I mentioned. So Janae, do you just want to share a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Janae, and I went to Wilson High School. I went to Columbia University for undergrad. And I wasn't upward bound for like all years of high school. And so that really helped me a lot with planning like what college I wanted to go to and filling out all my college applications. Um, and yeah, I'm just like really happy to like join Upward Bound as a alumni ambassador and to like meet all of you and give you the best advice that I can.
Thank you. And again, thank you so much for joining us. It's really nice to have a slightly more recent student than Brady and I to answer some of your questions. And then Brady, I mean, we all know you, we all love you, but do you want to introduce yourself as well?
Well, good evening, everybody. I'm glad to be here. And thank you. That's very nice of you to introduce me that way, Felicia. I am the Senior Academic Advisor with our pre-college programs of the Kern Center, including Upward Bound and Talent Search. And this is now my 9th year working with our program. So yeah, I've been here for a while, and it's definitely been a very long time since I was applying to college. But luckily for our students, I am pretty experienced with with knowing the applications and helping students with the applications, because I've been seeing plenty of college applications every year for the past 9 years now.
Yeah, and so every year the Common App, which we're going to talk about the Common App and other applications, so you're already getting the lingo, but we're going to be talking about that. But before we get into that, Janae, I'm going to put you on the spot first and just think back to when you were a senior at Wilson, you were going down, you were bugging Brady, you were trying to get these things in. What do you remember about senior year and filling out the Common App or your college applications?
So I remember that I just remember like how much like homework I had all the time and how much I felt like I didn't have enough time to do everything that I wanted. And I just remembered like the Upward Bound counselors like John and Tony and Brady helping me like filling out my personal statement and my resume. And also like for each college, there's like a list of like common questions that every school has that's unique to that school. So I remember when I applied to NYU had a list of unique questions and you had to like write like 500 words on answering each question. And so I just remembered like having to plan out my time and find time to really like think about why I wanted to go to each school and actually sitting down and like getting everything done. So that's like one of the big things, just like time management. and like just knowing like where you want to go, and you can't apply to every school, right? So you have to think about which ones you want. And that includes, you know, visiting schools, like going on their websites, talking to people who maybe went there. And yeah, it's like, it's hard to juggle everything when you're in high school.
Yeah.
Because, yeah.
Because I didn't even hear you mention like classes, like whether you're like an AP, IB, or if you have a job, you know, there's a lot that you do, and you're going to want to remember all that you do, because we'll get to that when we're going through the application. But Janae, just like ballpark range, how many schools do you think you applied to?
I probably applied to like 10 schools. I remembered having like, you know, my top 3 schools that I wanted to go to. And then like there's like target schools, reach schools, safety schools, right? I think that like when you're upward bound, they go over all of that with you. And so I just kind of like picked, I wanted to apply to like a lot of schools, right? But obviously I didn't have time. So I just thought, you know, of like narrowing it down by that. So yeah, like 10 schools.
Right, 10 schools, and you went right where I wanted you with that safety, target, and reach. Mr. Senior Academic Advisor, can you break that down a little bit for our families watching? Why do we make students apply to multiple schools, and what are these safety, target, reaches that we talk about?
Oh yeah, so the reason why we break it down that way is because, you know, like there are some schools that you feel like you might not be able to get into that are really hard. Like the school that I went to was like an Ivy League school. And so like from my background, that wasn't something that I felt was attainable. And so I just thought, okay, if I could go to a school that's out of reach, it would be that one. And then I picked like Cornell and NYU as my other reach schools. And then you'd pick like schools that you know for sure you'll get into because of your grades and your SAT scores. And so I picked a few for that. And then there are schools that you know that you can get into because you have a certain grades, like you have B's and A's or whatever grade that you have that you feel like you can definitely get into that school. Then that would be like your safety school, like just in case you don't get into the schools that you feel like you're a good fit for, or schools that you feel like are hard to get into for you, then you know that you have a backup just in case. So that's like how I thought about things when I was 18 or 17. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, you retained all this wonderful knowledge from Upward Bound. I'm like beyond impressed. This is great.
Yeah.
So the first step really, and we talk about this with students throughout their 4 years, is the college list for colleges they're interested in. And for a lot of the reasons what Janae said, like we want them to go to a school where they feel like they'll fit, but also, you know, SAT scores and GPAs and stuff like that's also things to consider if we're being realistic. So we have you apply to a range of schools. We have you work on this college list. It's why we visit colleges and try to have you research. And now that we're in this virtual world, attend our virtual college visits every Wednesday with our academic advisor, Kelly. But Brady, so walk me through that next step. All right, we have this college list. I'm a senior. What do I have to do?
Right. Well, let me just mention, while building that list, it is important to actually do some serious research rather than just think of whatever colleges come to mind or whatever college happens to send you an email or send you a nice, pretty little brochure in the mail and say, oh, that looks nice. I think I'll apply to there. It really is important and is worth the time for students to actually get on Google, use these different college search engines like College Board, CapEx, and just go on the college's own websites. There are virtual tours they can do there. So much information right at their fingertips online, but it's worth the time to do that in advance, because later on when they get to these applications, they're going to have to be writing essays specific to each college they're applying to. Although the requirements for each college vary, but for a lot of the colleges, especially the more selective ones like Columbia, like NYU, like the University of Rochester, they will have to write an essay specific to that college and why they want to go to that college. So if they haven't done that research up front and really learned that college inside and out, they're not going to be able to write a very good essay. And if they can get an interview for the college, they probably won't interview very well either. So the research up front is important so that when they get to the application and start filling it out, they can do a good job with these essays and be ready for the interviews and really put their best foot forward and give themselves the best chance they can at getting admitted.
Yeah, so then basically all the prep work that you can do, I don't know if we have our family members of our like 10th graders or 9th graders even, but the more that you can put into thought about why you would want to go to college. And again, like putting in when you come to the virtual visits and any chance you have to speak with an admissions representative, you are putting out who you are and you're making an impression, and you want to make sure that you're leaving a good lasting impression by asking questions and all that. So you have your college list, you're doing the research, you are being a very productive senior. And what your Upward Bound advisor is going to tell you to do is to start the common application. I will put out there that the common application has really good benefits in that some of the sections you fill out, like your name, family info, and stuff, will go to all the colleges so on the Common App. So that way it's just saved you some time, but not every school is on the Common App. So as we talk about safety schools, I know a lot of our students choose like Monroe Community College as a safety school. So that's not on the Common App. It's an additional application. So that's another reason why getting things started early and really good organization and time management skills are important, because you're going to have multiple accounts sometimes, and it's important to keep track of what's going on. However, I would say a majority of our students do use Common App. And so we are actually going to kind of talk through Common App a little bit, show you what it looks like from the student's perspective. It does seem a little bit more daunting than it might actually turn out to be. So here is our Common App. I'm ready to go and apply for school. Brady, do you want to kind of talk through the different sections and I'll follow along scrolling?
Sure. Yeah. So as we see here, it starts with the profile section, just filling out basic information, name, address, all of that. Although this is very important because their name needs to match up with their name as it is on their social security card. This is important for financial aid because when the students apply for financial aid, their name and social security number will have to get verified through federal student aid. And if it doesn't match, it will slow down the financial aid process. And if their name on their financial aid application doesn't match up with the name on the college application, that could slow things down as well. So even with something as simple and basic as the profile basic information, it's important to be careful with that part and make sure to get it correct to save yourself time on the back end. But yeah, so there's that section there. We have address, contact information. They do ask for different demographics. As well as geography, meaning where they were born, how long they've lived in the United States. They ask about languages. And if a student knows a language, even if they're not fluent in it, it's still good to put it on here if a student is multilingual. And they do need to know citizenship status on the application as well. Then this last part is important. There's a fee waiver built right into the application. Any student in our Upward Bound program or in our Talent Search program automatically qualifies. You see there, Felicia is about to check it, enrolled in the federal, state, or local program. For example, TRIO programs such as Upward Bound or Talent Search. So any Upward Bound or Talent Search student automatically qualifies for a fee waiver. So you will not have to pay to submit your applications to these colleges on the Common App. So one of the perks of being part of Upward Bound. Next, we got the family section. They do ask for information about parents as well as about siblings in here. And if any of them are enrolled in college or enrolled in school, they do ask about that. And with a sibling, you can add as many siblings as you have, or I think at one point they may have cut it off at 9 or 10 or something like that. But I think you can just about add as many siblings as you can, as you have, excuse me. Then for education, You put your high school in there, and actually any high school that a student has attended. So that if they've attended more than one high school, they would put them both in there. Middle school, elementary school, do not have to worry about that. But any school where they've attended since the start of 9th grade, they would add it there. Also, if they have taken any college or university classes, they can add that there. This only applies to classes where they have received college credit for it. So if they're taking an AP class or an IB class at their high school, they could potentially earn college credits for that down the line, but they're not actually enrolled in a college at the moment. So those would not count. This is just with classes where they're actually enrolled in a college class, like a MCC class or something like that. They would add that there. They do ask for grades. They ask for class rank. Some schools have not yet even reported that. So you'll see a lot of these questions are optional. If it has the little red asterisk, the red star, then it's required, but the optional questions can be skipped. And if you don't know the information yet, you can skip it. But the nice thing with this application, it will save your progress as you go through it. So you can skip around and come back later to a correct update. Just once you actually submit it to each college, at that point, no going back and making corrections. They do ask students to fill in what classes they're currently taking, as well as they ask for any type of awards that students have received, like being on honor roll, high honor roll with distinction, or any other kind of awards they've received at school. Community-based organizations would be programs like Upward Bound, like Talent Search, that students are involved in, and other programs could qualify for that, like Hillside Work Scholarship Connection and other programs we have in the area. Gear Up. There's plenty of choices on the list, as you can see there. And then they do ask for students' career interest, for their educational interest as far as how far they want to go in school. This is not any kind of binding agreement for most students. It probably will end up changing. That's okay, but they do ask for that information on the application. So that's the education section. Testing. They do ask for standardized test scores. These are not Regents exams or New York statewide tests, but these are national level tests or international tests that colleges look at, like AP, IB, SAT, ACT, SAT subject tests. So students can report these on the application. Now, this year, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, most colleges are test optional this year, whereas in the past, a lot of colleges did require a student to take either the SAT or ACT. This year, most colleges, not necessarily all, but most colleges are test optional. So it's up to the student to decide whether they want to take the test. And if they do go ahead and take it, it's up to them to decide whether they want to report the scores. For students who took the SAT, maybe they like the scores, and based on the average scores of students who get in to colleges they're applying to, if they're at average or above average, maybe they want to report those scores. But if those scores are well below the average, probably better leaving it off the application. Activities. Colleges like students who are involved, and not just involved in activities just for the sake of doing them, but actually involved in something they care about. So this is where students should add any activities they're involved in, including Upward Bound or Talent Search or programs. But besides just adding them as a list to show a lot of activities, it's important for students to put in that description section what they actually did, what they learned from it, any leadership position they had, like if they were a team captain or if they were a president or executive committee member for any kind of club or group. It's a small field, limited to 150 characters, but whatever they give you, use it. Use whatever space they give you. Don't just write a little 1 or 2 word answer there. But that's activities. And finally, the writing section. This comes last on the application, but I recommend students work on this first because this is the most difficult part, the most time-consuming part, and the part that students most often like to put off until the end. The other information, like filling in your name, address, the classes you're taking, the activities you're involved in, is a lot easier than writing a 650-word essay about yourself that really tells a compelling story that would make the person reading the application perk up and want to read and want to get to the end of it. So this takes a lot of work. We recommend students don't start typing it in here. It's better use a Google Doc, use Microsoft Word, because students often have to edit this 3, 4, 5 times, sometimes even more than that. Actually, Janae, if you remember when you were writing your personal statement, do you remember about how many drafts you had to write before you had that final version that you submitted with your applications? Okay, she's saying she's not sure. It was
I see
probably
too many. I see too many being mouthed.
Yeah, so that's why I really like the students to work on this first. It's going to take time. They could write a draft, and then when they need a break, okay, come back and work on some other sections of the application. And then when they're ready, get back to that personal statement. That's what we call it. But it takes time. And Felicia scrolled through it. There's some different topics they can choose from. One of it is just on any topic of their choice. So really, it's up to the student what they want to write about. But it should be a compelling story. Should say something about them. It should make that person reading the application want to read the whole essay and want to admit that student to the college. So that's very important, a critical piece of the application.
Oh, you guys couldn't hear me? Sorry, my mute was on. There's a Google Drive link there. So I think that they can use that to write their drafts. And then
so you can connect it right
upload.
to.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, thank you. It didn't used to be there. That's good. Very,
It's
very
new.
All right, and then the part about this application that's new for this year, it might stick around for the next couple of years. We'll have to wait and see. But if we don't know to what degree COVID-19 has affected anyone or how it has affected. We can't possibly imagine every scenario. So if it is something that has affected your family, if you're a student and you're applying, please feel free to go ahead and explain what happened, whether it's the loss of a job in the family, more responsibilities in caring for siblings. Colleges understand that this is not an easy time, but the fact that you are still graduating high school, the fact that you're still pursuing a college education says a lot about you. And they just want to understand more holistically what that means. Is it that you couldn't do sports because you didn't have sports available? Did you have to drop some hours at work? Did you pick up hours at work and maybe like dropped a class or something? They just want to build a picture. A lot of colleges use this term holistic review, which means they look not only at your grades, but they'll look at your personal statement very heavily. They'll look at those activities Brady was talking about. It's so important that you fill out everything that you do, even if it's just babysitting, because it's not just babysitting, you're providing and taking care of your family members. So they want to know who you are. The way I like to say it, why we're like constantly making you write things and talk about yourself. They can look at 2 transcripts with the same identical grades, same classes, but who are you behind that like GPA, and who are you beyond that just, AP level class? So make sure that when you're filling out the college application, or if you're a parent that's helping their students fill out the application, it's a lot of work, but all the information you provide just helps make the case about why you're going to be a really great college student and why you should go to that college and be accepted. So Janae, I know we started to put you on the spot a little bit with a personal statement, but as Brady said, that really is a big piece, and a piece that does take quite a while for most of our students. And I saw you really kind of giggling about all of the stuff, but how was that for you? I mean, senior year, did you wait until the start of senior year? Did you start it beforehand?
I think college applications are due around November, December, right? So I remember I think I started at the beginning of senior year. But I tried to think about like what my motivation was for going to college and like what things I had done in my high school years that could show colleges that I was a good fit for them. So I thought about, what extracurricular activities was I involved in? I did volleyball, I was in the drama club, I did like basketball. And so I remember just thinking about, sports, classes, like what I wanted to major in as well. Like just basically, it's a good to think about how your high school experience is going to tie into your college experience, and what do you want to study, what clubs do you want to join, and why, like where's the college that you want to go to? Is it in Rochester? Is it outside of Rochester? And just tying in, like showing the college that you are a good fit, based on your life story. And so I think that, starting it at the beginning of senior year, in September, or even a little bit earlier, gives you that time to think about like yourself. And it's a personal statement, it's personal, right? So, and I think that for me it was something that was like I wasn't used to, right? Because I'm used to like just doing homework and taking classes, and so I wasn't used to writing about, why I wanted to go to college. And so I think that, like, yeah, or the earlier the better, because it's a lot of drafts.
The earlier, the better.
Yeah.
And you brought up deadlines. So Brady, I'm going to give you 3 different terms. And if you don't mind, I'd like you to elaborate on what they mean, because they can sound good or seem really good, but it might not always be clear. So what is rolling admission?
Yes, with these different deadlines and different terms, it gets tricky. And Janae mentioned that deadlines can be as early as November and December for colleges, and that is true. But for anyone listening or watching who said, "Oh wait, am I too late to apply to college?" You're not too late, because there are other deadlines that come after that. But yes, some deadlines have passed, but still plenty of deadlines remaining. And actually, for the rolling admission, what that means is that colleges are reviewing applications and admitting students on a rolling basis. So throughout the year, some colleges actually as early as October. An example would be like SUNY Brockport does rolling admissions as early as October. They are reviewing applications as they come in, and they might be able to give a student response within 2 weeks. It could be a month. It could be longer than that if there's additional information they want to gather, if they want to see, okay, well, this student did okay, but let's see how they did in the first half of their senior year. It could take longer than that. So there's a wide range also of how long students will have to wait for a decision. But with rolling admissions, could start as early as October, but most colleges that are rolling admissions, at least with your 4-year colleges, they will keep those going until April, sometimes even past then. For your community colleges like MCC, those are rolling admissions, and they will keep admitting students all the way up until August, until classes start. So rolling admissions, that means it's just on a rolling basis throughout the year. They're reviewing applications as they come in, and as soon as they can turn the application over, then they will give the students a decision, as long as they have all the information that they need.
All right. So rolling admission is the one that most of our students will probably see, like most frequently on the Common Application. But the next 2, there are very distinct differences. Brady, we're going to start with early decision, because that is a very big buzzword.
Early decision, yes. So early decision, it's what it sounds like. It's students decide early, and usually the reason they do that is so they can find out early if they get in. So the early decision deadline for a lot of schools is November 1st, or around that time of year. So that's one that has passed already for most schools. But early decision, it's more than just submitting an application early. It's actually making a commitment. Early decision is considered a binding commitment, where when the student submits that application, signs it, they're saying, I'm committing to this school if I get in there. So based on that agreement, if they get admitted to that school early decision, the student is supposed to withdraw their applications from any other schools that they have already applied to. Now, the one exception is if the student gets an early decision, but then they get their financial aid information and they find out it's not going to be affordable for them, then that's a situation where the colleges would say, well, we can't hold you to this commitment now if you can't even afford it. But other than that, it's considered a binding commitment, early decision. So early decision, in most cases, I do not recommend it, just because of that binding commitment. basically you're making that commitment before you find out how much money they're going to give you with financial aid. To me, that's going to be too risky in most situations. Even if you can back out of the agreement because of the financial aid, I wouldn't want a student to fall behind because of that. Let's say they get in early decisions, think, okay, I don't have to do any other applications. Then later on, they find out that financial aid and it's really not good enough for them. They could have already missed deadlines for other schools. So in most situations, I advise against it. We have had some students do it in the past, and it has worked out for some students. There are people who choose early decision because when you look at the numbers, usually a higher percentage of applicants get admitted out of those who apply early decision versus those who apply regular decision. But I do not attribute that solely to the act of them applying early decision. I think there are a lot of other factors involved. So once again, I usually advise against that, but that is how it works. They apply early, you find out early, like the University of Rochester just last Friday notified students who applied early decision that they had gotten in, whereas other students are going to have to wait probably until March or around then to find out.
Thank you, Brady. So early decision, lots of perks and benefits, but maybe not always the best decision, especially if you want to have these options like we were talking about at the very beginning. But then the last sort of word is similar, but it's early action. So Brady, I don't know if you want to give a brief explanation about early action and maybe the difference between early decision.
Yeah, I'm a fan of early action. It's kind of like it's like you get the benefits of early decision without the drawbacks. Early action is when a student applies by an earlier deadline. Often that's November 1st. So for seniors this year, if you haven't made that early action deadline, you're probably too late. But they apply early, they find out early, but it's not a binding commitment. They could find out they got into a school early action, but they don't have to withdraw their applications from other schools. So that's the difference between early action and early decision. Early action is not a binding commitment.
So if you hear the word early action, especially for our juniors who will be going into senior year next year, and that's a term, that is a kind of a best case scenario between early decision and rolling admissions. It's the best way to find out early without having to have that legal binding agreement. And I don't know about you all, but I remember when I was 17, 18, making a college decision, I changed my mind so many times on which college I was going to actually go to. So I could not have handled a legal binding agreement because, again, you never know. You have to play out all your options. Before we move on, because I do want to talk a lot about financial aid because I know that's a really big piece every year, but especially this year. I want to emphasize too that before a college application is complete, like we showed you the Common App, Janae mentioned that there sometimes are extra writing supplements that you have to do to make sure you get done and out of the way. The other thing too is once you hit submit, that's not always the end of your application. Words that we like to use a lot are like HEOP and EOP, which are both programs that can help students both financially and academically at school. But those by the end all be all are not the end all be all. So Janae, if you can recall after, you hit submit, you were like, I applied, woo! So what did you have to do then? And what do our seniors have to do now?
So usually the school follows up with you about the process of your application. And if you are missing information, they would ask you, hey, we didn't get this information from you. And they'd ask you to submit additional information. And then I remember they asked for my grades. So I think I submitted my application maybe January or February. And then at the end of my senior year, after applying, they asked to see my transcript for the rest of my senior year. And they usually do that just to make sure that you're keeping up with your school. Yeah, so I think that they might just let you know what they need from you and you can just follow up with them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sometimes they're gonna just need more information. It's following up to make sure, oh, the letters of recommendation actually got there. It's okay, my counselor sent my transcript, all that good stuff. But if you do apply for additional programs, or sometimes you don't even apply and a school will be like, hey, you might be a really great candidate for this student support program we have. That's going to be more to the application. Sometimes it's an interview. For HEOP and EOP, we tell you that it's, a lot of extra forms. Sometimes it's verifying mainly financials, but it's, additional interviews, additional questions. Sometimes you have to do like a writing supplement to make sure that they can like get you in the right writing class, because again, they provide really good academic support. So even though, you hit submit, we're going to party, we're going to be so happy for you, you're not quite done yet. So make sure you're on top of your email. And I think that the way that students really see that a lot is with the financial aid piece. So we're going to switch over to that. If you do have questions about the Common App, please continue throwing them in the chat. And if we have time at the end, we'll return. But I would love to start talking financial aid because I'm sure that's what's on everyone's mind. I see we do have a question in the chat about financial aid, and we'll get to that momentarily. But first, let's do kind of a general overview about what is financial aid and where should you be starting. Brady, do you kind of want to touch, like, where do we start with this financial aid journey? Let's call it.
Right, we've already mentioned it, but financial aid is basically it's aid, it's help, it's money that colleges give students to help them be able to afford to attend that college. So there are lots of different types of financial aid. We could go into that, where you have your scholarships, your grants, your loans, different types of financial aid. But where it starts is with filling out the FAFSA. And the FAFSA is the free application for federal student aid. It is available now. It was available starting October 1st. FSA.gov, I believe, is or FAFSA.gov, FAFSA.gov. That is a website. But that first F stands for free. So that is very important. If you end up on a website and they are trying to get you to pay to do that application, you're on the wrong website. If you go to FAFSA.com, it's the wrong website. It's a free application. So that's where it starts. And then there's some other applications too, but it all starts with getting that FAFSA done. And that's what gets the ball rolling with the whole process.
All right, so we're going to jump into the question that's in the chat, because when it comes to doing your FAFSA, you're going to need a lot of information, and there's going to be a lot of questions that come up. So I'm going to send this to Brady, but the question in the chat, it looks like there are kids that live in the home half the year. So do we include them in the house size, or do we leave them off since we pay support is how it ended?
Yeah, for that situation, just based on the information there, I would say include them. Anyone who lives in the household half the time or more than half the time, they can be considered part of the household. And if they get added, if you put them on the FAFSA, on the financial aid application as part of the household, they should go on a common application or other parts of the application as part of the household. It's good to be consistent, just to avoid any type of red flags that might come up if someone looking at the application on the college's end said, wait, they were here, but they're not here. What's going on? So being consistent, like with the student's name, that's important. But yes, if they're in the household at least half the time, it's good to include them. Now, often colleges are going to ask for a copy of a tax return to verify the financial aid application. That's pretty common. So if it's also helpful if those people who you list in the household, if they're also listed as dependents on the parent's tax return, it's helpful for that to match up. But I know there can be many different situations with how people file, married filing jointly, married filing separately, all kinds of different situations. So it doesn't necessarily have to always match up exactly with the application, as far as the application matching the tax return in the household, because households can be different. But going back to my answer, if they're living in the household at least half the time, yes, you can include them on the application. And probably better to put more people on the application rather than fewer, especially if there are multiple people in college, because financial aid offices do consider how much a family has to pay for all of the family members who are attending college, not just the one student who happens to be applying to financial aid at that college.
Yeah, thank you. So again, I'm sure Janae can also think of really big financial aid stories, and we'll get to those. But something, because it is a little bit different with COVID this year, because normally we would sit down with the advisor and we kind of go over it and we can help you fill it in space by space. It's tough to do that because it's over Zoom or a screen now. A tool that we have been using with our students is it's like a PDF of the FAFSA. So this is essentially all the information you're going to need on your FAFSA, and you just go through it and you can kind of click and start filling it in. So it gives you an idea of what information you're going to need. And also, if you would like to fill this out and then go over it with your advisor, that's another option too, if you're not ready to sit down and fill in all of the information at the same time, like right then and there, because you could be to number like parent information, you're like, oh, I have no idea what this is for my mom or what this is for my dad or guardian. So it's a way to kind of prepare yourself ahead of time on what you're going to do. We all know, again, like financial aid is one of the biggest things because we're all trying to figure out how to pay for college. We want to make sure we're getting as much money as we can. So this is another tool to use. And if you would like to use this, we can find a way to maybe put it in the description or send it out to our parents and family members. But again, if you haven't, the first other step to do is to do your FSA ID. If you have multiple children who are going to be going to school, you're going to want to make sure you save this information because the FSA ID essentially connects and verifies that you say who you are in relation to your social security number. So students, you're going to need this because I still need to access mine. So you're going to need to make sure this information is safe, it's secure. It does take a few days to verify it too. So if like after this webinar, you are like, yes, I'm ready to go to fill out my financial aid applications, but you haven't done that, I would say that's your first step because otherwise filling out your FAFSA will not go smoothly. Janae. So Janae, we have a program here in New York State that is special to New York State residents, and it's another application for financial aid. Can you talk a little bit about TAP?
I actually do remember filling out the TAP. I don't remember exactly what the difference is though. Do you remember?
Mm-hmm. Yes. So yeah. TAP is just essentially New York State aid. I know that some of our students are interested in pursuing a school outside of New York State, in which case you would not receive TAP funding to support and aid and grants and stuff. But since Janae, grew up in Rochester, New York, she attended a school within New York State, she was able to fill out TAP. If you are thinking, okay, I want to go out of state, but I might go to a school in state, please still fill out your TAP with one of the schools that you're planning on applying to in New York State. You cannot do your TAP until after you do your FAFSA. And this is another situation where you think, oh, I've submitted my FAFSA, woohoo, I'm done. But nope, you have another form to fill out. And again, it's just to get you as much financial aid as possible. So really, when it comes to financial aid, the steps that we're discussing right now are your FSA ID for both the student and the parents, your FAFSA, like actually doing the FAFSA, and you can do the PDF and then go ahead and fill it in if you would like, and then your TAP. And then after all of that is when Brady comes in with the need to possibly do the financial aid verification. Brady, can you give us a little, like maybe a heads up on what that might look like, or some key things to look out for, you have to get it in kind of thing?
Right. With the financial aid verification, that comes up a lot, especially with our Upward Bound and Talent Search students. The reason is because when the federal government, when New York State government, when colleges are giving out all this money for free, or even loans that have to be paid back, but more so with the gift aid, as they call it, the scholarships and grants, they just want to verify, they want to make sure it's going to the people that really need it. So it's a pain, but that's the reasoning behind it. Now, one way to make the process easier is when you're filling out the FAFSA, they have what's called the IRS data retrieval tool. So it's built into the application, and what happens is you connect your FAFSA to the IRS, and you can do this for both the student, that is if the student filed a tax return. If they did not, then you don't have to worry about it, but also for the parent. if they filed a tax return, you can connect right to the IRS website, and it will import the data from the IRS website into the FAFSA, into that application. So that's good because it's like self-verifying, or the application verifies itself, or the IRS verifies the information because it's coming directly from them. When the student is just typing in all the information, then that's where oftentimes the FAFSA will get processed, and then they'll get an email saying, okay, you've been selected for FAFSA verification. And they'll probably send some forms in the mail that need to get filled out. They will probably ask for a tax transcript, which can be ordered online from the IRS, but it takes additional time. So you can avoid that if you do the IRS data retrieval tool while doing the FAFSA. Now that's just for the FAFSA. Each college financial aid office could have their own verification process and may ask for additional documents, additional forms to be filled out. So be ready for that.
Yes, and also be ready to fill out these financial aid forms every year that you're going into school. So that's why you need to have your FSA ID, make sure you keep it up. Because as much as going into, your first year of college and getting your FAFSA and you're tapped on the first time, especially if you qualify for TAP as well, then doing those 2 forms every year is going to be important. And correct me if I'm wrong, Brady, but if you already know that going into your first year that like you had to verify and stuff, it's just good to be prepared in later subsequent years if you are ready to verify. Or if you
be ready every year.
Be ready. And sometimes it's not even you were verified your first year, you have to be your second. You could be verified at any point, whether or not it's just they pick a random student to verify, or they just need to, do what they need to do. Something that I do want to bring up though too, I know that a lot of us have faced different challenges with COVID this year, especially. On your FAFSA, you need to do prior. So this year they're looking for the 2019 taxes. So you are going to have to go ahead and submit that information. But then if something happened with a loss of a job or a substantial change of income or something, after you submit that, you like the 2019 with your FAFSA, you can reach out to the financial aid offices at the colleges and submit either a repeal or request this information be considered. Like I said, colleges are very aware that this is going on and it's affected different families' financial situations. So as frustrating as it might be like, well, it looks a lot different this year. Then just submit it and then follow the appeals process, which is going to look a little different at every college. But the first thing to do is to reach out. So whether it's you submitted your application, you submitted your FAFSA, and you're like, I just need to get the ball rolling on this. Definitely be proactive, definitely reach out. And they have procedures in place to help and to review the application and review changes. But again, that's going to look different at every college. So that is another step in truly finishing your college applications. But for the last little bit, Janae, I'm going to come back to you. And I guess after you've submitted the college applications, you submitted the FAFSA, the TAP, you're following up on emails on what people need and everything. Then comes the question of scholarships. So Janae, if you could think back to senior year, what went well and what didn't go well with having to balance all this on top of scholarships? Because that's a word that's thrown a lot at the students.
Yeah, so like when I was applying to colleges, one huge question that I had to ask myself is, what would I be able to afford? And so there were some colleges that I was applying to that were way more expensive than others. And so I had to start looking for ways to pay for it. So one way, as we discussed earlier, was financial aid, aid from the state, and the other was like what colleges will actually like give to you. Based on your financial need, based on your parents' income and how much money you have to pay. And so there are like merit-based scholarships. There are scholarships that are based on your academic performance. So if you have, like really high grades or really high GPA, you can, apply for a merit-based scholarship. And if the college sees that you're doing very well, they'll give you more aid. And then there are need-based scholarships from the university that they will look at your parents' income and your background and see how they can help you if they see that they want you to be a part of the college. And so I think it's good to like look at both merit and need-based scholarships. And then there are, you know, programs like HEOP that will help you navigate that process as well. So yeah, I was able to find like, you know, a few grants and a few like need-based scholarships that helped me a lot when I was paying or thinking about paying for college, because I got like a lot of like scholarships, and so that's how I was able to pay for it. So I would say keep an eye out, and you can also contact the college too and ask them what scholarships they have available.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Janae. So yeah, so scholarships are a whole other part of this college application process if you think about it in terms of making sure that you're getting the best financial picture for yourself. So ultimately, there's a lot to do when it comes to applying for college, but as Brady said, like some parts of it, like the common application, like the filling out that stuff, that can just take a few minutes, and you can work on the bigger parts and take a break and come back to it. Especially for those of you who are part of our Upward Bound, our talent search programs, also know that we're here to help you. One thing that we have coming up is our senior workspace. We've had a couple of them, but especially, you know, as January 1st, January 5th, February 1st deadlines are coming up. We want to let seniors know that they can come, spend time with the academic advisors, and get work on your college application. Start hitting that submit button, because then it feels like something else is off of your checklist. If you have any questions, please reach out to your squad advisor. But we have our senior workspace December 29th and December 30th. And again, like it's a lot to do, but we got a lot going on. Oh, Brady, did you have something?
Cool T-shirt there too that
Yes.
my students designed.
Cool t-shirt. We definitely want you to come and get a cool t-shirt. We'll leave this up a few more moments just to see if any more questions come in. But I guess we'll just each of us go around and say a little bit of, you know, what we're hoping you take away from this meeting. I'll go first so you guys get a moment to think. But I'm just really hoping that you all see that there is a lot to the college application, and as exciting as it is to hit finish, there is still more to do. So make sure that you are being proactive and responsible, checking your emails, following up when needed, and definitely don't just ignore them, because you never know what opportunity you might miss. So keep working hard, and you're gonna do it. We have amazing alumni like Janae to prove that you can do it.
Yeah, I would say, like, you know, definitely reach out to all of your resources. Like Upward Bound was always there for me. And whenever I had a question or whenever I was worried about something, there would always be someone to talk to and to help guide me through the process. So I'd say just like always ask for help, always reach out, and always, you know, just have confidence in yourself, and like very definitely be motivated, because it is a hard process, especially when you're sort of like trying to figure out what to do like after school. You know, it's very difficult. And so I think that, you know, there are people that can understand you and help you out if you need it.
I'll say that it is a hard process. It's a long process getting all these applications done, but it can be done. Our students, you can do it. For the parents, family members, your kids, your family members, they can do it. It's hard work, but they can do it. But I would say that Janae is a testament to the fact that if you put the effort in, you'll get results. And Janae is an inspiration to us all, I would say, especially to our Upward Bound students, but you can do it. And, you know, the best time to submit the application probably would have been before those November deadlines, but second best time is right now. So even if you're not where you should be, where you would want to be as far as getting them completed, you still have time. So just keep working on it and get them done. And like Janae said, ask your Upward Bound advisor for help, me, Felicia, or other staff members. That's what we're here for. So make us do our job.
Thank you both. We did have one question come in. I want to make sure we get to it. And it's a timeline question. So we don't submit the FAFSA until they have been accepted to college. That is actually incorrect. Once you know what colleges you want to go to, the sooner the better with the FAFSA. So you don't have to wait until you hit the accept. And sometimes it's nice because then the accept will come with a financial aid package along with the acceptance. So definitely you don't have to wait until you get accepted. I would say once you know what colleges you want to apply to, feel free and submit the FAFSA. All right, everyone, thank you so much. We are continuing to see what parent and family engagement we can do to provide you. If you have any ideas, feel free to reach out to either your student squad advisor, or you can reach out to myself at the phone number 585-301-4488. If there's anything we can ever do to help make sure that you are educated on the college process and that you are part of this journey with us and your student. I hope everyone has a really great night. And again, if you haven't let us know you're watching, do so real quick, and you'll be entered into the raffle to win a little family snack night. Thank you so much, and I hope everyone has a great rest of your evening.
Thank you, everybody.